Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Airdrie City Council organizational meeting for Monday, October the 26th, 2015. And for the public agenda portion, we have item number 4. We have bylaws, and I'd like to introduce Sharon to come forward on the procedural bylaw, please. Whenever you're ready, please.
Your Worship, members of council, when we were preparing the procedural bylaw, we did not include information on the resolution assignment sheet. It has raised some questions as to why council members know what resolutions they're going to make coming forward. So we thought for the sake of transparency, we would just include that process within the procedural bylaw. So at this time, that's the only amendment that's in there, is defining what a resolution assignment sheet is, and then the process we go through when we are assigning resolutions as administration. So at this point, we're just asking that council give 3 readings to that bylaw. And again, it's purely to increase transparency with our public and media.
Yeah, and everyone should know that just because that person's assigned to that resolution, it doesn't mean that they either support it, or that they always have the choice of not making that motion going forward, and that's happened a number of times. So I'm fine with this. I'll ask for, if there are no questions for Sharon, go to Alderman Burley, please.
Motion for first reading of bylaw B51, 2015.
Thank you. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Alderman Haig, please.
Thank you, Worship. I would move second reading.
Thank you. All those in favor? It's unanimous. And Alderman Hunter, please.
Permission for third.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor? It's unanimous. And finally for Alderman Bellick, please. Thank you very much, Sharon. And we're moving on to agenda reports. 5.1. Deputy Mayor Coulson, please.
I think we're just throwing it back to you again, Sharon.
This particular report is dealing with the regular meeting schedule for council. Typically, council is met the first and third Monday of every month. If the Monday falls on a statutory holiday, it shifts to the Tuesday. Council has typically started their in-camera at 5:30, and then the regular public meeting has started at 7. Over the past year especially, there have been a number of instances where council has ended up going quite late, and for the reasons listed in the report, one, the overall length of the day that those meetings create, the effect on participants in terms of being fresh and able to make good decisions at the end of a very late meeting, and then the ability of the public to attend and see all of that public portion of the meeting and not have that as well go into long hours. We did a survey of our benchmark communities to see what they did in terms of meeting schedule and earlier start times, and so at this time staff are proposing, should council desire, an earlier start time of perhaps 4 o'clock with your public hearing and any public pieces starting then at 6. And if you look at the schedule, most communities are starting earlier, with Grand Prairie and Medicine Hat having their full council meeting start at 6:30, where Lethbridge has a 1:30 start with a 6 p.m. public, Red Deer has a 2:30 start with a 6 p.m. public, and St. Albert has a 2 p.m. start with a 5 p.m. start for public. So we just thought that the time might be appropriate to throw that out to council to see if that's something they'd like to consider.
Thank you, Sharon. Alderman Burley, please.
Sharon, are any of those municipalities have full-time aldermen?
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not double check that.
Well, Red Deer would be the largest community there, and I don't believe that they are. They're part-time, so let's make the assumption that everybody is part-time. Sorry, Alderman Haig.
Thank you, Your Worship. So follow up on Alderman Burley's question. So would those people be eligible for per diems, supposing they had jobs elsewhere, or how would that be set up?
That would totally be at the discretion of council. And in the past, council's made provision for per diems that were out of the norm. So there are a couple different ways that could be handled. That if council wished to provide greater remuneration for those councillors, for all councillors starting with the earlier start time, they could do so, and they could leave that on a per diem basis going forward, or they could ask that that be considered as a part of council remuneration when they go forward with that review in 2017. But in the meantime, for sure, absolutely, it could be handled with per diems.
Deputy Mayor Coulson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wondering if maybe, I understand that starting early for every council meeting would be a hardship for some of our members who work full-time. Would it be easier to do if we picked one day a month that we started really early so that those council members would know it's only one day a month that they would need to take a half day at work versus an hour?
Agendas.
Yeah.
The difficulty is now we don't know at which point things are coming forward because staff don't necessarily provide us with that information of stuff that's coming out.
So if we did the last Monday meeting of the month, so the third Monday, as our large agenda one, if a lot of agenda items came through that in the beginning of the month, could they be deferred till the end of the month? I guess is kind of where I'm going with that.
Sorry, if I could, we went into quite an in-depth conversation on this because I was of the same opinion. How come we seem to be front-loading? And there is sometimes no rhyme and reason when things come forward. And it would be great to schedule it all, but I really believe, we've grown significantly. There's a lot of different forces that play at certain times of the year, and it is what it is. And we've had this happen throughout, but it is definitely getting to be where 11 o'clock, I think it's unfair to assume that staff start at 8:30 and they're not punchy by 10 o'clock when they've been here all afternoon and all evening
I agree.
preparing. And that also goes for all of us who are here trying to make good decisions on behalf of the community as to whether or not, we're well rested and ready to go. This is not up to me because obviously I'm full-time, so I can be here for 4 o'clock. But I know Alderman Haig and Alderman Hunter have been challenged to get here sooner. As far as per diems go, absolutely, we're set up for it. I think it's only fair that council be remunerated if they're taking time away from their work and they're not being compensated while they're here. It wouldn't make any sense.
I do agree with that, and it's unfortunate that those of us who don't have a really flexible schedule are able to go to those longer or earlier meetings, I guess. I think to be more efficient, it would be great if we could start earlier. Maybe it's a complete review that this council needs to take a really good look at for the next election. If we're not meeting consensus tonight, I'm personally okay with starting earlier, but I do sympathize with those of you who may not be. So I guess I could go either way. I can support an earlier meeting, but I would also agree that maybe there needs to be a review of council as a whole as far as remuneration, start times, going forward for the next municipal election. We got to think that's only 2 years away. So
The agendas are only getting fuller, that's for certain. Alderman Burley.
When you say 4 o'clock start time, is that council starts or is that in-camera starts?
How I would see it playing out is you would start your meeting at 4 with your in-camera.
And council at 6?
No.
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 Actually, to be perfectly honest, I hadn't thought that out, and sitting here right now, I would probably go back to doing in-camera after. I'd start with a 4 o'clock start. We would plan our public piece for 6. If you were done before 6, you would do your in-camera in that hole before 6. Otherwise, you would do it at the end, but you would start your actual agenda right at 4.
Okay.
Thanks for the clarification, Sharon. I'm going left whenever you're ready. Alderman Bellick.
Maybe I could see 2 hours. I could see starting at maybe 5 o'clock rather than 4 o'clock. But for some of us, like you say, I think 4 o'clock is a bit early.
Thank you. Alderman Haig, then Alderman Hunter.
Thank you, Worship. I guess my concern would not only be with us as council members who have a full-time job other than our role here, but it could be in terms of have the public as well too who wanted to participate. I realize that we're online and broadcasting, but in terms of being part of actually being here, it might be a challenge for them as well too to attend a regular meeting of council.
Yeah, and we're very clear on that point to make sure that public question period would be happening after 6 o'clock. And to suggest it's exactly at 6 o'clock, it could be 6:30. I don't know how we're gonna, because everything is based on an agenda, but we would make sure that it wouldn't happen before a certain time so that we could make sure we had the maximum amount of people that were available to come. But again, we sort of haven't gone down that road yet. Alderman Hunter.
Well, I guess, whether you're front end loaded or loaded on late at night, add a couple extra hours on, it's a matter of choice, right? So it's a challenge to get here for 4 o'clock. It's also a challenge regardless of, especially if you do have full-time all day, is to add, that's in a sense adding 2 shifts onto one day. I've done it lots. I'll continue to do it lots. It's a pain regardless of when your start and end time is, because you're not getting to bed any earlier just because you have it at 4 o'clock, or you go till 11, or I think what's our latest we went, I think was almost 1 o'clock once, right? So, I mean, to me, it's if it's going to take you X number of hours to resolve it, what are your options? You do it in that day, or you move it into another meeting. We've had some meetings short, some meetings long. I guess the critical importance, what absolutely has, some of this stuff could have been pushed to other agendas that we've sat. It just got stuffed in between some really important stuff, so.
In fairness, I get to see all the agendas, and sometimes, but not very often. Most times, a lot of thought goes into when we prepare them and pull them together, and we definitely have removed some items over the years, but it's just, I guess my question on that vein, Sharon, is we always including that hour and a half for in-camera session before. Is there a possibility of changing that time, and would people be interested in starting at 6 o'clock for our regular council meetings, which gives adequate time for people to arrive? You guys can both make that, but can we do our in-cameras off council meeting days, which is another option, I guess, but I don't know what the MGA says on that. I guess it needs some clarification from you, and if council would want to support something like that.
Through the chair, if I understand you correctly, you're thinking that perhaps you could do your council meeting starting at 6 and do your full council meeting at 6.
Yep.
And then you would move any in-camera potentially to that 4th Monday and do all of your.
Not always, but probably 50% of the time. I'm just putting it out there because I'll have trouble supporting the 4 o'clock just because of my colleagues to the left, at least without some more consideration and a little bit longer discussion. I mean, this is a fairly significant shift, not only for us, but as Kelly said, the community at large, to starting at 4. So, I'll have a tough time supporting the recommendation at this time. Alderman Haig.
I think.
Sorry,
No,
whose light was on first? Sorry.
So I guess if we kept with our in cameras prior and scheduled them for 4, because there have been times when in camera has only been half an hour before, and it, again, depending how long in cameras are and items, I could support a 4:30 in camera start with a council meeting at 6. I could make that work, because knowing that there are times when we don't always start or need to start earlier for an in-camera. We can start later.
Thank you. Alderman Hunter.
And I guess, so if it's a one-off or it's occasionally that's great, but I guess my fear is that it could, for whatever reason, happen each and every time, and that it gets to be quite of a challenge. So, I mean, if we get something particularly jam-packed, I can probably squeeze and move around some of it. But if it starts to become, well, we're doing it all the time, then it's definitely going to be a challenge.
Okay, well, we wouldn't be able to have a start time for the council meetings unless it was consistent. Continuity would be the king. Whatever time we start would have to be. So there's no flexibility from your work to get those 2 days a month to start, to be here for. I'm directing you because you're the only one that's challenged with it at the moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's lots of flexibility with my day job, so to speak, and perfect example was a good chunk of the day this past Friday for those types of things. I mean, there's lots of flexibility there, but it seems that the flexibility is taking on more and more and more, so.
Well, sorry, but the flexibility for the council meeting would be a priority over all of our other duties, would it not? Just, I mean,
Well,
I'm not suggesting to put your priorities in your own list, but I think the number one priority of this council for me is our council meeting. So it's the number one issue. We deal with all our policies and frameworks and everything else. These 2 days a month are the key. But, you know,
Well,
put it back out to you guys.
whatever the will of council is, I'll do my best to make it when I can, and I'll be here on other times as soon as I can possibly get here.
Alderman Burley.
Your Worship, based on Alderman Haig's comments about 6 o'clock start time for council, that, to me, is everyone seems to be able to make that time for the actual council. That's
Certainly why I suggested. I think
that doesn't seem to be an
council
issue.
meetings are good.
It's the in-camera sessions that would be the issue. Having to start, if they started regularly at 4:30.
Well, and I would say that doesn't happen we usually have, we average an hour, Sharon, on in camera, I would guess, throughout the year, correct?
For the most part, and then on a monthly basis, you would have your budget committee that would need to start at the 5 o'clock point.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Alderman Haig.
So then again, just to add to that, I could make that work, I believe. I do value having in-camera prior to the council meeting, camera after a regular meeting.
All right, any other conversations, suggestions? So we are going to be, sorry, Deputy Mayor Coulson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to, I guess, know if council sees any value in maybe having, I don't know if it would be a strategy session as far as looking at start times moving forward for the next municipal election. I don't know if this is, the council, we're talking about commitments and other jobs, and we've got, Rocky View has full-time counselors with a lower population than we do. I know that some of our larger cities have part-time counselors, but they also have a much larger council. It spreads the load kind of a little bit, I think, more so than our small council does. So just wondering if moving forward, this is something that we should look at, changing our policies for the next election so that those people who do choose to run really understand and know the commitment level that they're getting into coming on.
Well, you have the motion to make. So there's been some suggestions to amend the motion. Sharon, do you have any, from administrative perspective, I know it's not what you wanted, but the 4:30 start within camera and the 6 o'clock start for council meetings seems to be good with the current members here. So unless there's some concerns you have.
No concerns at all, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. So if you're willing to make that motion,
Well,
Alderman Coulson.
we've heard some different things. So I'd really like to fine tune. It would be nice to get an earlier start time if we could do so for the public as well as those of us who are here awfully late some nights.
Yeah, no, but it'd be an hour, 6 o'clock, and so we'd be an hour ahead of ourselves. So
That works.
and as far as Alderman Hunter, he said he would do his best to be here on those 2 days.
If it looks like we're going to have a larger in-camera portion, can we do it on a Monday strategy session night the week before the following council meeting? Would things like that work?
Through the chair, I don't see any reason why that wouldn't work unless there's something of a timely nature that needs to come
Right.
to that particular
So maybe we
meeting.
can save some of the higher concept, the longer working things for strategy nights, make sure that this council knows that those nights need to be a priority again. That would be nice to see. So I guess.
We don't always have those meetings, so there isn't always an
No,
agenda, right?
No, we don't, and there's not always quorum.
So I'm, just based on the comments from around the room, I'm comfortable with moving ahead with a motion of a 4:30 in-camera start. Now, it may not be 4:30, it might be 5:30, depending on what's on the agenda, and we move our meetings to 6. So the public's aware of it, we have continuity. If everybody's okay with that, then let's proceed with that motion.
Sorry, I was under the impression that the consensus was not to move it to 4:30 start.
In-camera was fine.
In-camera is
In-camera
fine.
at 4:30 because we have either, the maximum amount of time we need for in-camera is an hour and a half. Depending on the meeting, sometimes we need 2 hours, but we only have an hour and a half. So that's where it starts. And we can extend it after the meeting as well. And you know what? If we try, sorry, and I'll defer to Alderman Hunter here in a second. If we try it for a month, have a couple of meetings, see how it goes. If it's a real problem for some of our members, we want everyone to participate. They were elected to be here. If it is a problem, we can always revisit as we move forward. But Alderman Hunter, sorry.
Well, through the chair, I guess, a couple of issues. So one, it's more of a personal issue than some of the making of the time. If I look at the agenda and it's something that I feel very strongly I need to be there and participate in, I'm certainly prepared to move heaven and earth to make sure I get there. At a certain time every day, I take heart medications, which when I take those, there's about a 45-minute to a 1 hour sort of hit the reset that I have to do. So nobody's business but mine, but that's one of the bigger challenges of that piece of it. So I guess what I would ask is that if we're going to do that, that we get maybe have every effort made to get the agenda a full day earlier than we're getting it now, so that we, because again, when I get mine, I like to get it to us a day earlier, but my understanding is there's a lot more staff than there are council members, so I think that's quite doable. So.
Okay, so you're comfortable with the 6 o'clock? It's okay for you for the council meeting time. Currently, we get it on. It's public on the Wednesday, correct? Not we can see it on Tuesday though, correct, Sharon?
The agenda is available to council on Tuesday, and it's also available to the public on that same Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah, okay, sorry, I got that day wrong. So you'd like to see it on a Monday, Alderman Hunter? Okay, well, I guess I would ask from an administration perspective, Mr. Schultz, if that's doable.
Of course, through the chair, I think anything's doable. However, if you back it up like you're suggesting, we actually got staff presenting on a Monday and actually preparing for the next council meeting on the same Monday. And it gets, it's starting to back up, so then we're going to have some overlap of actual meetings of a lot of staff who you regularly see here doing both reports for the one meeting, but also having to get things in just the way we back it up for the following meeting. It's already the way it operates. We finish the Monday, reports for the next meeting have to be in that following day.
And currently, we basically have staff currently to get something on an agenda are now having to have it done almost 3 weeks prior, and this would definitely push it into the 3 weeks prior. And so it starts to become a little bit more difficult for us to manage all the various dates. If that's council's desire, we absolutely will make it work.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. Alderman Burley.
I just have a question of Alderman Chapman, or sorry, Alderman Chapman, Alderman Hunter. You're both gonna be upset now. Is it just the in-camera portion that's the biggest issue? If you had that the day early and the regular council agenda on the next day?
Sorry, just hit your microphone so everybody can hear
Yeah,
you.
so typically, starting at 6 o'clock, I mean, there's many times where I get home in time to get here for the 5 o'clock or 5:30, but again, like I say, the regime that I have to take with heart meds, et cetera, you're supposed to take them at the same time every day, and once you take them, it's kind of, I mean, I have no problem coming in and going like this, but it's going to look kind of silly on.
But that won't be on camera till 6, so you'd be okay.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Okay. But
so
it's
that
more,
the in-camera portion is the difficult. 6 o'clock, I think usually I'm rolling in at 6 or 6:02 or something anyway. So.
Oh, and it is an hour shift, and I'm not sure. Again, your health and well-being is far more important than anything else that we do. So,
Well, certainly I'll add this. It's quite a challenge.
I'm certain it is. The only thing I want to suggest, if it's all right, as part of our motion moving forward, that we start the 4:30, start our city council meetings at 6 o'clock. And we will look at, from an administration, give them an opportunity to look at this Monday morning, to have this information, or Monday evening as an issue. Do we have to put it into a motion, Sharon, or can we just do what we're doing right now? Because you've obviously been advised as to a request from a member of council.
If your request is that we go away and see what the impacts would be to perhaps split the agenda, because I'm not quite sure whether we can do that with our existing system, or back it up a day, we can bring that information back if that's what you're looking for, and we could do that without a formal resolution, Your Worship.
Yeah, I think that would be certainly better than formally making that request without doing our due diligence to make sure it's works well for everybody. Deputy Mayor Coulson and then Mr. Schultz.
I'm just rereading through the report, and I'm not seeing how many average council meetings are at these communities that we're benchmarking on. So it just seems to me, I mean, do we need to have 3 official council meetings a month? Would that lighten the load if we're starting to spin ideas and what we're talking about? Do we need to see it go down that way? It's 3 agendas for you.
With the fourth Monday, we are currently doing 3 agendas now. And I think with what you were speaking to earlier about putting some of the in-camera that can potentially be moved off to that fourth Monday, you would be accomplishing that anyway. But we already are preparing 3 agendas. It's just, do
Right.
you want to have a full official meeting
Is
on the
that
3rd?
something that the rest of council, now that I'm seeing shaking of the heads. Okay. Okay.
That's
I guess
shaking
we're
of-
really going down the rabbit hole right now. I thought it seemed like we had a bit of a consensus that I could make a motion, and now I'm hearing all of these other little tidbits. So
This council always goes down the rabbit hole,
we're-
whether we
we're
want to go there or
well
not.
down the rabbit hole. I see.
I'm still very
I'm sorry,
comfortable
Your
with.
Worship, I
No,
see
no,
lights
that's
on.
okay. I'm totally comfortable with the 4:30 and the 6, and I'm very comfortable with 2 meetings a month. I think that it's adequate for the amount of information and decisions that have to be made. Certainly, as we move forward, there may be some other times. I mean, you look at the city of Calgary; their agendas are 2,000 pages.
So just, I guess, asking maybe Alderman Hunter, if we had that in camera on that 4th Monday, would that help as far as giving you time to review what's on the in-camera?
Well, I guess, it does. I guess what I also would like to not see is that we go and make this change and then find out that, it's so efficient that we're sitting with, council meetings where the agenda isn't quite as action-packed as the previous. And Sharon, I don't know if that's doable, but perhaps once a quarter we need to have an extra council meeting for big ticket items. I don't know. Is it doable to do it once per quarter, have an extra council meeting, or is that?
Through the chair, is it doable? Absolutely. Probably the biggest thing we come up against is if you wanted to do a separate council meeting, say if you've got a big item coming forward, it would probably depend on the lead time and knowing that you had that coming forward. Sometimes an issue that we think is going to be really big is not. And sometimes an item we think will go fairly quickly does not. So it's really hard to predict what potentially may take a long period of time. Sometimes we know for sure,
Yeah.
but to make that prediction on a regular basis, I think that'd be a little bit difficult. If you wanted us to start planning an extra meeting per quarter, I think we would want to actually have that published as a meeting rather than moving forward and all of a sudden having an ad hoc meeting. That's when you start getting questions from the public around transparency and whether or not you're really being transparent in when your meetings are and what you're putting forward.
Well, I guess through the chair, the thing that I see most problematic is when we get agendas packed with like a bunch of back-to-back public hearings, and then you get, and if they're right at the time when we're doing budgets, so the fall typically every year seems to be one of our busiest times. As we move closer to June, it seems to skinny out, and, I mean, it's how do you sort of massage that all and try to do a better split on them. And so in the instances where we do have a whole bunch of public hearings coming forward, or public engagement sessions, those we know that those and budget times typically are going to have more potential to grow into something that we maybe didn't anticipate than other times of the year. But those are the ones, it seems to me that if we kind of look back, we can kind of get a sense of when the busiest times were, and if we kind of manage those, it'll help us spread it out through the whole year, so.
Well, I can tell you that Judy and Laurie didn't expect this conversation to go as long as it has, just for openers. So we do go in great depth at times about specific issues, sometimes as it relates to other than what's on the topic at hand. But obviously, we're doing our due diligence. It's an hour ahead of where we start usually. I think we try it for a month, see how it goes. If it doesn't go the way we want, we always have the ability here to change and go back to our way we've done it before, or as Alderman or Deputy Mayor Coulson said, add another meeting to the month. It'll all depend. I think let's try it for 2 meetings, see how it goes. If it isn't what we all expect and we don't get the public turnout, then we'll know that maybe we need to shift back. Mr. Schultz and Deputy Mayor Coulson.
Through the chair, if I may, and I'm just going to offer perspective, and might even border on my opinion. Yeah, in the big picture here, all that's being proposed, and I think it's in response to, we're noticing more items and longer discussion and good debate, good healthy debate at council coming along. And I can tell you from sitting in this chair now for 5 years, or sitting in the crowd the last 10, 20, what we're seeing is the volume is getting bigger. We're getting to be a bigger city. There's more issues. And yes, you're going to have slow meetings, often closer to summer. You're going to have busier times like we are in now. But generally, I would think, and we meet every pre-meeting with the mayor, in general, I would say the number of items and the amount of discussion has increased. It's no surprise to me that if you look at the chart, all these centers are a little bit bigger than us, been there a little bit more before, and whether they start their entire meeting at, or portions of their meeting earlier, the public portion is all around 6:30, every one of them. And so it's just, in my view, what's being proposed here is it's business as usual, other than we're upping the public time to 6 o'clock. So the review times, in terms of agenda prep, all those things are the same. And I think it was just thrown out from various comments as something to look at, that maybe we end, rather on those big nights at 10 instead of 11, and that we're things that aren't necessary for the public, if we're able to, if the aldermen of the time are able to accommodate that we can have those discussions, whether it's budget committee or in camera or Main Street Square, all those things we do prior to the public portion of a meeting. So it's, I actually agree with Mayor Brown. I mean, one thing we could do is pilot it for a while and see how that goes as an offer here. But anyways, just some commentary and perspective, hopefully.
Deputy Mayor Coulson.
I'm ready to make a motion if you're ready to
Absolutely.
Let me make that motion.
Any more lights?
Worship?
No, we're ready.
Okay. So going back to the pilot comments from Paul, I'll make the motion that we start earlier with our public at 6 p.m. and then I guess we'll see where the in-camera falls before that each week. Is that what I'm understanding?
So I would clarify 4:30 or.
Okay, so was that the
The
consensus?
in-camera was
4:30?
consensus
We're
4:30
gonna give it
or
a
beyond
try.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's go with 4:30. We'll give it a try. We'll see how that goes. But I would like to stress that maybe we need to start looking at the strategy meeting on the fourth Monday being a regular, it should be a regular part of our meetings
Sorry,
as is.
is this part of your motion? Or is this a conversation for another time?
Maybe I'll make a second motion.
Okay, so your first motion is to start the council, sorry. Carrie, would you repeat back the first motion, please? Sir, can you turn your microphone on, my dear, please, just so they can hear you in the television land?
So the motion on the floor was to start the meeting of council at 4:30 in camera, with the public portion beginning at 6 o'clock p.m.
You're the best. And I put you on the spot because it's always Sharon, and you passed. You did so good. I knew you would. Flying colors. All those in favor? All those opposed? None. Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you.
But when I was first elected to council, it was the understanding that the fourth Monday of every month was a strategy session. We have had no agendas, or we have not been able to make, not all council members have been able to make those, so I would like to see that become more of a priority. And if we can get some of those in-camera items, or if that turns out to needing to be another public meeting, that the fourth Monday be considered.
Certainly, we've got all of our Main Street Square members here. I don't know why we couldn't meet on that, because a lot of times that falls into an in-camera session
Yeah,
before
and
a
it's
council
not in-
meeting.
It's not in every month.
We could do that for sure, but
So I don't know if we need a motion about that, or if staff wants to kind of look into that and see what happens.
so
Okay.
I don't think we do, and we'll proceed from here. But point well taken. Do you really want to comment, Mr. Schultz, or are we done with this issue?
Real quickly, just so I'm clear, you're okay with the strategy sessions every fourth Monday, but if there is need be, or there is an openness to have in-camera or Main Street Square meetings on that fourth Monday as well. Is that what I'm hearing? Then I'm clear.
Sorry, do you guys want to comment? No? Okay, so we're good to go? Sharon, see, that went a little longer than you thought, I told you. Now we're moving on to Alderman Chapman is not here, so I'd ask for 5.2, please. Alderman Burley, thank you.
Then I'll make a motion that we adopt the the 2016 council calendar as presented.
Everyone's had a chance to review it. You're all comfortable with where we sit?
Sharon would like to add something, Your Worship.
That would be great. Sharon, whenever you're ready.
If I may just make one comment, at this point in time, it has council with 2 council meetings in both August and July. If you'll recall, for the past couple of years, we've eliminated one of those meetings, and so if council so desires, they can do that at this point, or they can do that closer to the summer, whichever their preference is.
Well, I know I had it written down. My preference was to eliminate those 2 weekends, or sorry, so we had the full month for people to take time. I forget, we went the first in July, 1st in August, correct, Sharon? So that would be my preference, to stick with it. And as you said, Alderman Hunter, we don't have July and August are usually a little bit lighter with holidays and time away and things. Deputy Mayor Coulson.
I would just like to say again that if we are going to cancel a council meeting, I would like to revisit why we're having a council meeting right after the long weekend. Many people are away. They choose that weekend to be away. Sometimes those agendas are a little bit heavier, just depending on, we've been gone for a month. That why aren't we doing it at the end of the month? But I can't remember those conversations that we had about this before.
Yeah, that goes back a ways for me as well. You're talking about the Labor Day weekend,
Yeah,
obviously.
we see council on the Tuesday after the long weekend. I'm in town on those Tuesdays, so it doesn't really matter, but I'm just saying that having the long weekend, and the likeliness that you're going to make the time to really delve into your council agendas, it's tough to make that time to do so when you're away for a long weekend. So I'm just wondering.
Yeah, it's a very good point.
I'm sorry, I don't remember the detail, but I know we'd had a conversation about why we had to have it at the first of the month in August.
If I may, Your Worship?
Yes, you may, Sharon.
My recollection is that at one point, council had considered taking the second meeting in each of those months, and then it appeared, if my recollection is correct, it worked best for people's calendars to have that first meeting of each month off. I know we had looked at having like 2 meetings off, say in July, but that put the timeline too long, because now you're up to almost 6 weeks between council meetings. But I do believe it became a preference of council to do the first rather than the second.
I see. I guess to me, I don't know about the rest of council, but it makes more sense to have the July meeting on the 1st and then have the August meeting on the 3rd, because then you get a longer break for people to plan their holidays and utilize the long weekend. But everybody has their own schedule and their own.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, Alderman Haig.
Thank you, Worship. I think just through to Sharon quickly, if you could just, I guess, confirm my comment, and then I'll carry on if I could. Just in terms of other councils, we're one of the few that have meetings during the summer months. Am I correct?
Through the chair, off the top of my head, I can't confirm or deny that. I know there are a number of councils, Calgary included, that do not meet over the summer.
Yeah, City of Calgary is off July and August. They're off for 2 full months. And they're back on, they have day meetings though, so it's a little bit different. So their meetings start at 9 a.m.
So just, thank you, Worship. Just to continue then, I mean, I'm hearing we need to start earlier because our agendas are longer. So, you know, I'm kind of, I'm not, I guess, you know, if you schedule a meeting, you don't need it, then you can cancel it. But that, in terms of planning for individuals, that makes it tough. I think I agree with Alderman Colson in the sense that if you went with the first weekend in July, or sorry, the first Monday in July as a council meeting, and in August the third Monday, that would leave a longer break for people who would choose to do that. And I know, recalling from our discussion a year ago, it was that again, that is a big break between meeting times. But I think that opens it up to other groups, or to other people to schedule their times, including staff. I'm not sure, you know, if that's a big staff break as well too. I know we've also had meetings in the summer that the agendas were fairly small, and I believe they were not scheduled or canceled, and that could be an option as well too.
Just to clarify, that's the meetings that we hosted last year. Wasn't middle of the month, Sharon, was it? Was it middle of the month last year? I thought it was. We met the first of each month, July and August, correct? Last year?
Through the chair, Carrie is telling me
Thank
yes.
you. Yeah, that's what I thought.
So that's what I'm saying. So,
Yep.
as like Alderman Colson said, it might be better to, you know, give people a longer break at the end of July. So you're say that's your big work is happening in you're with your agenda in that first Monday in July. Then your next council meeting wouldn't be until the third week in August, rather than chop it up and have. Again, it's nice for people, I believe, to have those breaks in there, but it gives one long interrupted break by rescheduling that, and you would avoid the holiday weekend, municipal holiday weekend Heritage Day, I believe it is, in August.
Thank you. Alderman Hunter.
So regardless of how we're posturing this, it doesn't preclude our ability at any given time, should the need arise, to have special council meetings, right, Sharon? So we still have that.
Through the chair, that is correct.
Thank you, Alderman Hunter. Alderman Burley.
I guess I'm a rarity. I prefer to keep the schedule of the first and third Monday of every month. It gives residents more uniformity, a standard set. They realize it's going to be, they expect the first and third Monday of every month. And if we have a meeting that's only an hour long instead of our usual 4.5 or 5, what's wrong with that? Instead of adding it, and then all of a sudden you have the 4.5 or 5 because you missed a couple meetings. I realize people have vacation time, and maybe I just don't take enough vacation, but it's one of those things that I would rather have every meeting scheduled, leave it there, and if we don't have anything on the agenda or enough on the agenda, then we cancel it a month out. We'll know probably a month out that we wouldn't need the first meeting in July. How long before you would know?
Through the chair, we would not know till 2 weeks before.
2 weeks? Okay.
So, sorry, I appreciate that. My only commentary is with City of Calgary, everyone knows they are off for July, and they set that schedule first of the year. Everyone knows. We've had people arrive at a place to come and go to a meeting, and it's not on because they haven't been alerted to that, or they don't check the website, or they don't. I don't know why we wouldn't just put the calendar out there. This is how we're doing it. It's the same this year as it was last year. There's continuity to it. And council and others, they, you know, and the other part is administration, know when they can take time off. Paul works his holidays and vacation time. I know Sharon does around the fact that we are off, and not knowing ahead of time, it really throws a wrench into everything. So I'd be supportive of keeping the exact same calendar that we had last year and I think the previous year. We've done this 2 years, have we not? Was this first year this year? No, it wasn't. No, we've done it before.
The past two summers, you've canceled meetings in the
Yes,
summer.
yep.
This would be the first year
We'd set it.
This would be the first year you'd be on this schedule with this long a break between the two meetings.
Yep, no, that's fair. Okay, well, we've heard different perspectives. Is everybody comfortable with sorry, and I don't have the motion right in front of me, Sharon.
As is.
Keep it as is.
No breaks in the summer.
No breaks in the summer. Okay, that's not my preference, but who's making that motion? My apologies, I have the sheet in front of me. This would be Alderman Burley that's going to make that motion. It shows you meeting in the summer, so
It's tiny.
whenever you're ready, Alderman Burley, please. Sorry, I called you Alderman Burley.
Oh, okay, thank you, Worship. Then, this is a hard one then, because it is my preference to leave it as is, but from what I've heard from council, they would rather have it differently. Then I'll make a motion to as is, and if it's defeated, and we can move on to a new motion after that. So a motion as presented.
Point of clarification, we have the ability to leave it as is, and then in the summer, as we get
can- oh, yeah,
closer to it, change it at that time, right?
But that's always there without making a motion at
Okay,
this time,
so,
so.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, sorry, how many were in favor? 1, 2, 3, and we have 3 opposed. The motion's defeated. So, since we need to deal with this, who wants to make a motion to amend the motion? Alderman Haig. Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor Coulson.
No, if Alderman Haig.
Deputy Mayor
okay,
Coulson, you had your
all
light
right.
on.
So,
And this is, again, another example of how things can, yeah, we're going down the rabbit hole all evening in the
order to
last
get us
45
out
minutes.
of the rabbit hole and well
think
on our
about
way
the
to
people who are
Wonderland,
not tuning
I'll
in
make a
tonight and
motion.
missing the action.
I'm sorry, Your Worship, I think I'm leading you down that rabbit hole.
No, you know what? You're doing a wonderful
right.
job, Sharon, as always.
So, my motion would be to adopt as presented minus the council meeting on July 18th and August 2nd.
Correct. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion, sorry, Alderman Haig, where were you?
In favor.
You're in favor. The motion's carried. Whew. Thank goodness.
If I may, Your Worship, I just need clarification on the vote.
It was 4-2. Alderman Haig, Alderman Bellick, Deputy Mayor Coulson, and myself were supportive of the motion. And Alderman Hunter and Alderman Burley were once and again in agreement. I think you two should start sitting beside each other. All right, we're moving steadily along. Yeah, we'll be out of here by 11. That's too funny. Poor ladies from our HR department, I'll tell you. Okay, so we're moving quickly to profile sheets. Alderman Burley, please.
First off, I'd like to make a motion that we add a third council member to the police committee.
Excellent. All those in favor? I believe this is unanimous. Thank you very much.
And then I'd make a motion to adopt the other profiles as presented.
Thank you. All those in favor? That is unanimous.
See, when I make a motion, it's quick.
Appointments of aldermanic representative chairs and vice chairs. We're beginning with Alderman Haig, please.
Thank you, Worship. If we put the chart up, then I will move the chart as presented.
With the changes, correct, Sharon? Everything's updated? Okay,
They're
thank you.
Highly efficient, Your Worship.
Sorry, Alderman Burley, you had a comment or no?
No.
Okay. We are moving on to appointments of citizen representatives, and that would be Alderman Haig, please.
Thank you. I think we were just going to go through each of our committees, were we not? Or can we move it as one?
Sorry, I have you as my first you are on the first of my motions, and then Alderman Bellick, Alderman Burley, Alderman Hunter, and back to you again, and then finishing with Deputy Mayor Coulson.
So is it like, sorry, Your Worship, I don't have that. I'm just pulling this up right now.
That was the schedule that Sharon, can you help us out with your,
I'm just looking, what was the first committee, Your Worship? Sorry.
that was I believe it was Airdrie Library Board, was it not?
Assessment Review Board.
Oh,
was the
sorry,
first one, Your
Assessment
Worship.
Review Board, I apologize.
So then I would move let's see. Got Assessment Review Board is, no, I've got just different aldermen. Forgive me.
If I may,
Just
Your
wanna
Worship,
pull that up.
probably the easiest way
You
to
may.
get to that point is to the second tab on your appointment of citizen representatives in the in-camera agenda. That would probably be the easiest one to follow. And we'll make sure it's in the public agenda for subsequent org meetings.
Oh, thank you.
Still haven't caught it up, sorry.
Sharon, if you could just, or Carrie, someone come over and give a hand to Alderman Haig and direct him to the right area, that would be awesome.
So we're looking for the Assessment Review Board,
Right here, Cal.
Janice Reese, Dan O'Neill, Chris Jasek, and Ray Walinga.
Okay, all those in favor? Should be unanimous, thank you. Next up, we have Alderman Bellick, please.
Yes, I'd like to reappoint the people as presented in the Environmental Advisory Board.
Do we need to publicly state their name, Sharon, or are we okay? Thank you so much. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you, sir. Alderman Burley, please.
Make a motion that council reappoints Aaron Holmes, Danelda Johnson, Alan McKecken, Dan O'Neill, Peter Shonicus, Mark Steffler, and Carl Terry to Municipal Planning Commission.
Thank you so much. All those in favor? It's unanimous. And Alderman Hunter, please.
Make a motion that council reappoints Chris Gurley, Bob Harriman, Chris Jasek, Paul Proseski, and Trevor Schultz to Municipal Policing Advisory Board.
And proudly, I might add. All those in favor? All those in favor? It is unanimous. No, that's okay. And Alderman Haig, and that was around was STAB? No. Library Board, I apologize.
So as presented, Your Worship.
Thank you so much. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Coulson, finally.
I just have a point of clarification for Sharon. We have an individual leaving, so how do I appoint SDAB?
Through the chair, your motion would be to reappoint the existing members who've indicated they'd like to return, or you could read out those 4 names, I believe it is, and then add Matthew Nash.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking for the exact names, but I think I'll just say as presented, I'd like to appoint the ones that indicated they would like to return, and in addition, we'd like to appoint Matthew Nash to the Subdivision Development Appeal Board.
Excellent. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Did we miss anybody under that, Sharon?
Yes, Your Worship, we miss CSAB.
CSAB, and that would be Alderman Haig and the gentleman.
So the names that are presented along with adding a new member, Tom Seaman, to that position, please.
All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. And it seems we're through to adjournment. So thank you, everybody. I apologize. We did have another motion. And we should have a motion to excuse Alderman Chapman as well. He's probably covered in sauce right now over at the arenas on our behalf. Alderman Haig has the floor first.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to make a motion that staff study and present for review a review of the MPC mandate in comparison with other communities and how they handle the municipal planning commissions, to present to council as soon as possible.
Excellent. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you, Alderman Haig. And who would like to excuse Alderman Chapman? There's a light on. Alderman Bellick, please.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Alderman Chapman from this meeting tonight.
Excellent, thank you. And for the audience and whomever is watching, Alderman Chapman was part of our conversation as it related to all of these boards and was part of the interviews. Actually, he had another appointment he had to get to. All those in favor? Thank you. It's unanimous. Was there any other issues that I have missed from our in-camera earlier? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Carrie, are we off the live stream?